Welcome to the Mixology Talk podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Julia, and we're the folks behind A Bar Above and Top Shelf Bar Supply.
I help run abarabove.com and also help bars and restaurants with their beverage programs.
And I run Top Shelf Bar Supply, where we make awesome bar tools for bartenders by that bartender.
Bartenders.
Pretty much.
This episode is brought to you by Top Shelf Bar Supplies. Back when we started A Bar Above, we never had the intention of starting a bar tool company.
In fact, I told him we never, ever would.
True story. But we kept getting emails asking us for our recommendations for bar tools, and to be completely honest, there weren't a lot of great resources out there at the time.
Yeah, I used to drive Chris crazy behind the bar. I would have to listen to him complaining.
All the time.
That's how I know.
All the time.
So finally, eventually, I gave in. I reached out to a bunch of factories. We got dozens of sample cocktail shakers, and we finally found one that we love.
Yep, so fast forward up to now, and we have a great catalog of bar tools and tools that I wish I had when I was tending bar.
It's true, and they're pretty great. You should definitely check them out. Easiest place to find them is amazon.com/topshelfbarsupply. And I know we're maybe just a tiny bit biased.
Best tools in the industry, hands down.
They're pretty awesome. They're pretty great. This is episode number 145, and it is the end of January.
Yep, so it might be pretty slow at your bar this time of year. It typically is.
Not a lot going on.
Yeah, New Year's resolution, people getting healthy, and dry January. Pick February, it's shorter.
I know. Why don't people have like New Year's resolutions to drink like better cocktails?
There you go. That's a great resolution.
To like try every bar in town.
Yeah. To get to know every bartender.
I think that's a great resolution.
Great resolution.
Next year we're going to suggest those. Next year we'll be more proactive. But in the meantime, we thought that we would talk a little bit about what you can do at your bar when there's nothing else to do.
There's always cleaning, right?
We're talking about when you're done cleaning.
Done cleaning. You know what they say?
All the prep is done. All of the bar tools are polished. The bar is wiped. And there's not a speck of dust on a single bottle on the back bar.
Oh my God, it must be January.
What do you do? Good question.
That's what we're going to talk about. Stay tuned.
So now that you've finished prepping everything and cleaning everything, and there's not a speck of dust or a smudge anywhere on any glass in the establishment.
You finally got all that red lipstick off that one glass.
I know. That one lady. That one regular.
Don't even know what the hell.
The worst. What do you do? I think the first most obvious thing is to start working on sharpening the skills you already have. The first one that comes to mind for me is just free pouring, is to calibrate your free pouring. Practice, 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 practice. It's something that, it's something that you can't be done.
Right.
You can't learn free pouring and then be done. You should always be practicing and calibrating because it's going to keep your pours sharp.
Yeah, and to talk about speeding up service, this is going to speed up service when it starts to get busy, and it's just a really good skill to have down. I know that over time, my free pouring, even within a shift, my free pouring can shift from accurate to, quarter ounce off here or there, half an ounce maybe. You get distracted. So just muscle memory and getting this all done is a great opportunity to kind of practice and really sharpen the skill.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
More.
And even if your bar doesn't permit free pouring, I would argue it's still a decent skill to have for any bartender.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing to work on, even if it's something you can't actually do with a customer.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think this is just something that will always pay off.
So what do? You get a bottle, you fill it with water?
Yeah, you get one of the bottles that you empty. Obviously, maybe the house vodka bottle or something like that. Obviously, talk to your manager, tell them what's going on, because if they see you just going like this all day, for an entire shift, and
with a vodka bottle,
right, exactly, they're going to start to worry about their costs and stuff. So talk to the manager, tell them what you're doing, grab that bottle, maybe even put tape on it, so that way nobody just thinks that it's vodka or that you even forget which one is actually vodka.
That's a good point.
So label it.
Not a good customer experience.
Yeah, and then just go for it. Just set some glasses up, free pour, and have somebody call it out, or you can do a random number that you just think of, and then measure it in your jigger. If you pour it straight in your jigger, it's also good practice, but you might rely on that a little too much. So
it's hard to get it. Yeah, it's hard not to trust that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I always try to do it blind into a glass and then measure out how accurate I am.
You can also do it by weight. If you don't want to pour it into a jigger, you can actually just put your glass on a scale. Obviously, tare it with an empty glass, and then that's an easy way to do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need those super expensive, like free pouring tester kits.
You could always get them.
I mean, you could. Aren't they like $70?
I don't know, but yeah, they're definitely out there if you want to try those.
That's true.
And if you're going to do your whole bar team, that might be a really great way to do it. But if it's just you and you're sharpening your own skills behind the bar, you don't need it.
There's other ways.
Use the tools you already have.
Yeah.
Most of you probably have a jigger. If not, we sell them. They're great.
We sell a jigger. It's pretty awesome.
But, this is stuff you can do no matter what. Mm-hmm. And it's going to pay off when it starts to get busier.
Definitely. So we talked about free pouring.
Yep.
I think another thing to talk about would be, well, you tell me. I think something that would be good sort of calibrating is just your skill at cutting garnish. Yeah,
and you could really start to experiment with new types of garnish.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of your classic lime wheel or lime wedge, you could get one of those zesters that pull channel. I think it's called a channel knife, where it pulls different strips. Score the outside of the lime first, and then cut your limes and your wheels and wedges and stuff like that. Just a little bit more interesting visual impact to the cocktail. Stuff like that. You got fruit, you got time.
Yeah.
So think of new and creative ways of presenting cocktails. Some new ways of garnishing that you already have on hand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that there's. Again, you're not going to want to waste a whole ton of fruit, but you might be able to, could you zest a lime and then use it for the juice later?
No,
why not? Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to be wasted either way. So just be a little bit cognizant of, I would say, of wasted.
Of throwing good stuff away, for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to just chuck dozens of limes because you zest a little bit.
4 pineapples later, I have a tiki boat, or something like that. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to practice your garnish game and to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the other things that I really like to practice when it was slower, and this could be something that you keep in mind throughout your entire year leading up to, whenever your busy time is economy of motion. This is like one of those skills that as you become, the more you're tending bar in the same place, the better you're going to be at this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just going to make more money.
Just going to get faster.
Yeah. So what I mean by economy of motion is...
It sounds so good. It sounds so
I know, right? But if you're talking to one guest, maybe you multitask and you're taking an order and you're also creating a round of cocktails at the same time. And then you maybe have another tab in the back of your head that you need to get to. So basically you start to work on your mental ability to hold information and going from there. The other thing is just movement in general. Like if there's an empty plate on the table or on the bar, there's a guest that needs to get an order right next to him. And maybe there's a water glass that needs to be filled all at the same time. Grab the bucket for water, clear the plate, pour the water, greet the guests all at the same time, whatever the best sequence is for that. Those are the kind of things that are really going to pay off when you're busy.
I'm just imagining this empty bar with like one guest.
I know, right?
And the bartender's like, whoo, whoo, whoo.
Like, man, you're intense. Calm down. I'm the only one in here.
10 seconds later, there's really nothing to do.
Right, exactly. And nobody at your bar because they're freaked out.
But joking aside, that is something you could practice all year long. And certainly in terms of like the steps and getting that muscle memory down for common sequences of events that you do.
Yeah.
I think it's still definitely worthwhile. So this one's kind of similar to the last one, but it's instead of sharpening a skill you already have, why not learn a brand new skill? Especially in the age of YouTube. Juggling.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's flair, right? I was gonna mention. Let's talk about flair now.
All right.
Why not?
Sure.
Okay, you might work at a craft cocktail bar and it might not make sense for you to be chucking things in the air. But there's a lot of like mini flair things out there. I know one bartender was telling me that he's got his cocktail napkins, like he's got this perfect technique where he just like frisbees the cocktail napkin and it just lands right in front of the guest.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's not crazy flair. It's not like a crazy nightclub, but it's got this like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So little things like that. I mean, and depending where you work, maybe it is appropriate for you to learn crazy flair. Go to town, throw things in the air. Obviously, be careful what you're throwing, and don't use real bottles until you're really good. But I think there's some stuff to be had there. I know. David Sangwell of Bartender HQ has some. I think he has some good resources for sort of beginner flair for
I would assume
bartenders.
so. Yeah.
I'll dig that up. I'll put that in the show notes, which I don't think we've actually mentioned the show notes yet.
No.
Yeah, crazy.
There you go.
Mixologytalk.com/145.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And there's some great videos out there, bartender tricks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple I saw where somebody throws a coaster and there's already a pint glass on it, and it just wedges itself right up underneath it. Like all kinds of crazy things you could do.
Nice.
And this is a great time to practice. So yeah.
I would obviously if there are guests on the bar at the bar, you may want to be careful with what you're throwing.
Right, exactly. If they're regulars, they might be totally game for
They
this.
might be pretty excited about it.
Right, exactly.
And actually, you might pep up a quiet bar by doing things like this. It's something to think about. Again, calibrate based on what kind of bar you're in and how your management feels about the situation and who's sitting in front of you. But if you don't know any flair at all, there might be some fun little things that you could work on that would fill the time and be kind of fun.
I remember I worked at one, sorry to get distracted here, but I worked at one bar where the manager swore he knew flair. And I was like, there's no way, I want to see. Let me. And he was probably like 45 or 50. And I was like, come on, really? And he's like, yeah, I got this down. I'm like, I want to see your flair. And his entire flair technique was him grabbing the ice scoop and rattling the well. That was it. That just making noise. That's all he did. He was like, "It's pretty good, right?" I was like, "No, man, that's terrible."
Turns out I know flair.
Right? So I was like, "Come on," but maybe not do that. Maybe actually try working flair. It could be fun.
I have no words. I have never heard that story.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
we won't name names, but I'm going to ask him later. I can guarantee that. Okay, let's talk more about techniques. Now that we've covered flair.
Yeah, done. Check. Done.
Check. What about other neat things? The one that came to mind for me was throwing.
This is a skill I've always wanted to learn how to do because it looks so cool.
It looks like one of those. I mean, it's not unlike flair actually in some ways. It looks really cool, and you're liable to make a huge mess.
Right. So if you don't know what we're talking about, throwing is the art of spinning a cocktail. So much so that instead of going straight up and down, it starts to change the angle that it pours at. Using the centrifugal force of your body, right?
And you're pouring between your cups.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so if you've seen a YouTube video, well, just Google it. Or maybe I'll include a video. Maybe David has another one of those. But it's a pretty neat technique. It's another way of mixing your drinks using a Boston-style shaker with 2 cups that is not shaking.
Right.
It's pretty cool. It looks pretty awesome. It's not something you see very often in the U.S.
Right.
So again, very visually appealing, might be kind of fun. Your regulars might enjoy the show. Your janitor may not appreciate it. So consider starting with water. Right,
exactly. But this could be a really fun thing to try. It looks so impressive once you get the thing down. Mm-hmm. Effectiveness, I'm not sure. Speed of building a cocktail, not so exactly sure.
Not so much.
Showmanship, off the chain. It's so good. But yeah, probably not with your red wine. I wouldn't.
Yeah. I think throwing red wine is usually something else.
Yeah. So another thing that I really wanted to do when I was tending bar and I never really got the hang of it was double stirring.
Yes.
This is a really, really great way to build speed. It's impressive to look at. Mm-hmm. So basically you're putting 2 mixing glasses side by side, and in one hand you're stirring both cocktails with 2 bar spoons.
Typically you'll see people using longer bar spoons for this,
mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because you just need more room.
Yeah, you need,
I will admit, I found a video of somebody quadruple stirring.
There you go.
I will put that in the show.
Next level.
Yeah, so once you've mastered your double stirring, you're not.
There's always room.
And why not 6? I've never seen that.
I haven't either.
I think that's what you're going to have to do.
Why stop there?
How many fingers? How many spoons?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Just finger spoons from here on out.
I think there's some bartenders doing that.
Right.
May not be sanitary. But.
No. But this could be something that you really start to do and really understand how to do it physically. It's a great opportunity to do that. Water, some ice, and a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah, unlike flair, unlike throwing, this one actually does speed you up.
Right.
So it's a technique that looks awesome and it can truly speed up service. So, I mean, maybe put this one first. Maybe we should have mentioned this one first.
And the last one for new physical skills kind of goes with the economy of motion thing that we were talking about earlier. And this is round building. So when you're slow, you're probably not going to have the opportunity to practice this, but let's say you get an order of 4 different cocktails. This might be a really good opportunity to try this. So when we talk about round building, basically what we mean is touching the bottle only once. So if you have let's say a margarita, I was going to say kamikaze. If you have a margarita, a gimlet, or maybe a daiquiri, you're only going to grab the lime juice once and pour in 2 different cups. Then you grab your rum and then your tequila, pour that, and kind of go through your entire sequence. If you have a Paloma behind that, you're only going to use a tequila bottle once. Once for the margarita, once for the Paloma, then you're going to put it down. So it sounds pretty easy when you do 4 cocktails, but when you do 10, it becomes really, really hard to keep track of. So building out your ability to do this, talk about a game changer for speed. This is really going to...
This is next level stuff.
Right. And you don't know, you might be the well guy for the next couple of years if you master this thing and just absolutely crush it. So round building is something really, really fun and really easy to practice when it's slow.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing to think about is to think ahead. One of the things that can be really challenging is when you get in the thick of, you know, your springtime, your summertime, your fall, when you get in the thick of service, it can be hard to get out of that and start thinking seriously about what the next cocktail menu is going to be. And it happens fast. It sneaks up on you. So it might be a good time now, when you have the time, to start brainstorming with your coworkers and your lead bartender and your management and your customers. What are some ideas for the future cocktail menus to have this year? Like, hey, Joe, regular, you know, what are some of the favorite things that you had this fall? Like, tell me about some of your favorite cocktails you had this fall, craziest stuff you saw. You know, and it really just, I mean, it's a great opportunity to obviously bond with your coworkers and also to bond with your regulars. Yeah,
and it's a really good opportunity. I mean, we just are now getting in the worst part of the season where, you know, the Brussels sprout cocktails are finally coming off the menu and we're looking for something a little bit lighter. I know, maybe some more aromatic springtime cocktails. And we have this abundance of fresh produce that's coming our way soon.
It's not quite there.
Not quite there,
but it's coming.
We're all ready for it, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
But this is something that if you work in a restaurant as well, a bar restaurant, or a restaurant bar, start talking to your pastry chef. Start talking about to your chef, because they're equally as excited about the new season coming up. They get fresh produce again. So, you know, say, hey, start mapping out when things are going to start coming out. You know, maybe start working on some lavender coming in or dill cocktails or something else, you know, kind of light and aromatic like that. And then when strawberries start to come in season, map all that out and start to build ideas around when you're going to start to release things, flavor combinations, and all that. And
to your point, spring is certainly the most the one that's going to be top of mind, but I don't see why you couldn't at least do some brainstorming for the summer. And again, for the fall, it's in recent memory.
Right.
So it's not a terrible time to write down some ideas for you to pick up in August, September.
Right. Absolutely. So another thing that you can do during the slow times is to really concentrate on your education program. This is a great time to plan it out. And to talk with your management or lead bartender or whoever's in charge of possibly talking to reps and stuff. This could be a really great opportunity for you to get ahead of the game as far as education goes.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this a lot before when we're talking about being a rep or working with reps and things like that. But a lot of wine, beer, liquor reps, they frequently offer tastings to management. But if you ask, they may also host a small education session for your whole staff.
Yeah, there's been a couple of restaurants I've worked for where they'll have a sommelier come in and walk you through the basics of wine. And then every month they'll come back and do a deeper dive into one varietal. So you kind of get this nice big broad spectrum real quick, and then you start to go deeper and deeper and deeper every month that they come in. And it was all provided by the vendor, and obviously there's benefit for them because they're showcasing the wines in their portfolio.
Right.
But it really is a confidence booster for anybody that doesn't know wine very well, the language around it, how to describe it, and how to taste it, quite frankly.
Right. And management, of course, is just getting a win-win here. On the one side, their staff is getting better trained, and on the other side, it's not costing them any product.
Right. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it seems like if it's something that you can get on your schedule, it is a great win and something to definitely consider, especially in this time of year. I mean, it's going to be really hard to work this into the schedule next November.
Right, absolutely.
It's not going to happen.
One of the other things you could do behind it, it's something I definitely recommend people doing, is doing a sales contest behind any kind of education that you guys conduct, because it's fresh in everyone's mind. They know how to talk about it. They're excited about it, so they can start to push a product. You talk to the vendor and say, hey, I'd like to do a sales program or a sales contest off of this one glass of rosé. We're going to sell a lot of it in January or February. Is there anything you can offer my employees as a benefit, as a way of saying thank you?
For a prize?
For a prize. And usually they'll come up with some fun stuff. Could be some fun swag. We're in Northern California, so a lot of the times it was a night in the winery. An overnight. So I'm not sure how common this is now, but it's in everyone's interest, and it could be a lot of fun. And once again, you're starting to build a relationship with your reps, and this is how it all starts to pan out. Absolutely.
And if none of this is possible, I would say that you don't have to be quite so grand.
Right.
If you speak with management, you could potentially just sort of pair up with your coworkers and quiz each other.
Right.
Or pour the tiniest amount of something, have them taste it, and they have to tell you what it is.
Right, exactly. This is something that we did.
Anything on the back bar, any glass of wine, any beer.
Any spirit,
That's
probably not spirit because it's a little bit more punchy.
That might add up quickly.
Right.
But, or maybe if it's one a day, then that's fine.
Right.
But again, definitely get approval from management since you're drinking product, but there's definitely an educational opportunity here.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a great way to really sharpen your tasting skills. This is something that me and some of my coworkers have done in the past when it's super, super slow, is we would just pour each other a mystery glass of wine. Yeah. And we'd have to sit there and evaluate it. We knew it was by the glass, so we already had kind of a information to pull from. But you'd be surprised how hard that game is with one you're pouring every single day.
And not only that, but it really, really helps you get to know your by the glass menu.
And being able to describe it to people and just you have this really intimate knowledge with the glass if you've discovered it in this way and you've had repetitive tastings on it.
And if somebody asks you, what do you think of this wine? Guess what? You're going to know what to say.
Right. Same thing with beer. Same thing, all the product mixers. So when you're talking about education, you can reach out to all those different vendors and set something up and just get your education game to a whole nother level. One of the other things we talked about was potentially even doing a focused book club for a month or a couple of weeks. So where everybody reads Liquid Intelligence and they all come back with their takeaways or something like that. Something you can talk about in your bar meetings or whatever. But it really is a great opportunity to invest in yourself.
Absolutely. This last one will not come as a surprise if you've ever listened to any of our podcasts ever.
Yeah,
we pretty much always say this. No surprise here. Skip ahead. But seriously, you can always speak with your management and ask about more responsibility.
Oh, I thought you were going to say relationships.
Oh, that would have made more sense. We do always say that. Actually, not this time. Yeah.
Don't start a relationship with your manager.
No.
That's kind of where...
Don't start a relationship. Don't do that. That is not a good... It might fill the time, but it's not a good idea.
Oh, man. So many ways we can take this thing.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I was talking about taking on more responsibility. Things like what we talked about earlier, cocktail design, even running some numbers or looking at the P&L, these sorts of things. I mean, what would you say?
Yeah, even like just getting your head wrapped around par sheets. If you guys don't have one, maybe you can talk to your management about making a par sheet.
Didn't see that
side work, like dialing in the side work sheets. You know, all these things are opportunities for you to kind of step in, assume a little bit more responsibility. Ordering is always a big one. Inventory is always a big one. If you want to learn more about the business, that's an easy way to kind of get started.
It's not fun, but it's important.
It is. And understanding how product moves through the business is a really important part of growing as a manager and just as a business owner. So that's always valuable. Costing is always big. So costing a new cocktail. And just get to know what the roles and responsibilities of a manager are. You know, there are times where we don't see them for hours. I guarantee you they're doing productive work, hopefully.
They're sleeping.
But honestly, there's just so much to learn. Why not take an opportunity like this to really kind of up your business savvy? If you plan on opening your own bar or working as a bar manager, this is valuable time that you could be investing in yourself.
Absolutely.
So yeah, give that a try. Ask your management if there's any responsibilities that you can kind of step into. Have some suggestions. Yeah, have some suggestions of things you want to learn and understand more.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I would say, like I mentioned a moment ago, is shadowing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if it's really slow, you can sit in on some of these processes, not have the responsibility to do them, because that might make your manager nervous. Like, I'm not quite ready to hand this over. Well, can I watch you do it?
Right.
Can I learn from you? And I think it's more likely that they're going to go along with that.
Yeah. I mean, if they're doing all the prep or doing all the infusions, or, you know, if there's one person that kind of does all that, that could be a role you kind of learn more about as well. That is something that is absolutely critical to learn more about, is techniques like flavor extraction and production and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So there's no limit to how you can start investing more into yourself during slow times.
Or you could keep cleaning.
or keep cleaning. Yeah. So that wraps it up for podcast number 145, and we'll have more for you in the future. But we'd love to hear from you. How do you guys fill your time when it's slow at the bar? What do you guys do to either invest in yourself or just kind of pass the time? If you have a fun game you guys like to play behind a bar.
Let's be honest, there's games.
That's probably, I'm sure there's a lot of games. I can name quite a few right off the top of my head. But tell us on Instagram. You can find us at A Bar Above, right?
A Bar Above? It should be on the screen.
There you go.
Somewhere around there. Find this post and comment. Let us know what you... Let us know how you spend your time. And of course, all of the show notes that we mentioned today will be available at mixologytalk.com/145.
And if anybody's just listening on the podcast, that was me doing the worm.
Not the lying on the ground, like the handworm. Does it have a different name?
Probably.
The handworm.
Sounds weird. That sounds...
Moving on. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Romance.
Yep, that's how we do it. Okay.
I'm ready.
Clearly. Okay. Rolling. Let's get this podcast rolling.
Rolling. Then we take a nap. Are you ready for this?
Getting in the zone. Feel the burn.
Done with the podcast. Let's go to bed.